Sorry, we're getting started here. I gotta paste a link. Okay, there we go. So for everybody just tuning in, if you want to participate live, face on video, or just you don't have to do face on video. You can do audio only. I just posted the Skype link within the chat. Now, obviously, if you choose to join this video live on forever. So, with that being said, let's go ahead and hop right in here. We're going to talk about, this is the latest Timepieces for Tomorrow live show. And it's something I want to get a lot of guests on here. Had a lot of fun. We had Marcello. We also had Hybrid Life, and we had Trevor. And I want to get a consistent audience that chooses to join in by way of Skype, because I think it adds to the entertainment value of the live streams, and also there's potential educational value there as well. So this is unlike a lot of the other wristwatch live streams that you watch, from the perspective that we're here to have a good time, but we're also here to provide some potentially educational content. We don't want to, deviate from the subject matter, which is wristwatches. We want to stick to wristwatch-centric content during this live stream. And obviously, Timepieces for Tomorrow is just a component of our Skies Adventure channel. So I have the other live streams too. But let's go ahead and hop right in here. There's a few things that I wanted to showcase. One of those being the Pistachio Breitling that came out. That's such a desirable piece. So let's go ahead and flip over here. We're going to go over to chrono24.com, and we're going to do the Pistachio Breitling. And this thing's phenomenal, man. I mean, it looks like Breitling's getting back to what's great again. I mean, they've got a 40 millimeter. It's a chronograph and a chronometer. Look at that. Look at how awesome that is. Unique color, great case size. I mean, 40 mil for most men is probably the optimal size. I mean, you can go a little bit larger. You can go a little bit smaller. I mean, you can go down to 39. If you've got a really small wrist, you can probably even wear a 36 millimeter. But, this is a great example of something recent that, that Breitling has brought to market. And I mean, that's phenomenal, because a lot of their older pieces, well, not old as in vintage, but older as in, older as in, the past 10 or so years, they hold on one second. But yeah, they've done a phenomenal job, kind of getting away from the super large, super bulky piece. And I mean, I know, trends come and go with wristwatches. I mean, for example, case in point here, let's look at a Breitling Super Avenger. And this was a piece that I picked up. I picked it up in 2009, and actually for a lot less than this. So it still performed well. But I picked up this same piece on a Pro 2 bracelet, which I think the Pro 2 bracelet, they did a really good job. Yeah, it is shiny, but the Pro 2 bracelet, Breitling Super Avenger, was nice. The newest iteration of this, I don't think the stainless bracelet is as nice. I think the Pro 2 bracelet that I got was phenomenal. Obviously, according to today's standards, 47 millimeters is probably a little bit too large of a wristwatch. But again, I mean, that's a matter of personal opinion, and you may have a large wrist. You may not have a large wrist, but you want something that looks big. Breitling Super Avenger definitely, ticks those boxes. But it's interesting to see where the wristwatch game is going. I mean, we've got the Rolex thing is just ridiculous. I mean, there's a shortage. They're going on gray market, for more than they go from, than they would in an authorized dealer. But, a lot of authorized dealers don't have any stock. If they do, that stock is often, spoken for by their premier clients. So it's hard for an average Joe or an average Jane to walk into a Rolex AD and pick up a current reference sports watch. Sports watches are pretty much impossible, and you may find some OPs, some Oyster Perpetuals, but even those now have become really popular. So it's interesting. So what I want to do within this show, and everyone in the live studio audience here, feel free to comment within the chat area. And if you want to join, I can post the link again as well. You can join in live through Skype. But, in today's market, what do I think would be an easy to obtain yet very good quality and possibly future classic wristwatch? The one that immediately comes to mind is the Breitling Super Ocean Heritage 2. Now, this particular piece, it comes in several different variations. It's, this is one of those where the size is important. And also, I would say probably this right here is probably the safest configuration. This is the Super Ocean Heritage 2, which has a ceramic bezel. But it's 42 millimeters. Now, this same piece you can get in 44 or 46. I personally, and tell me what you think. I mean, I'm not a dictator here, but I personally think that 42 is the best size. And I also think that if you get this piece, definitely get it on the shark mesh stainless bracelet, because if you go with rubber or you go with leather, it's just not. Go with the shark mesh stainless bracelet, and if you decide to add a rubber or a leather, or maybe both, you want to rotate it out, do those on your own. But be sure to purchase the piece on the Breitling shark mesh bracelet, because it's so comfortable, and I'm convinced. And again, this piece hasn't shown up to my knowledge on any sort of celebrity type wrist, like a James Bond or anything like that. But I think the proportions of this in 42 millimeters, I think it's perfect. I think just the overall fit and finish of this, obviously it's got a screw down crown. It's got no crown guards, so it gives it a really good look. It is water resistant to 200 meters, which, I mean, if you're going out in the pool or the ocean, and if you get down that deep, you've probably got more things to worry about than your Breitling on your wrist. But it's just a great piece. They executed it very well, and I think this is a piece that is under the radar. I mean, a lot of watch collectors, they're very aware of the Super Ocean Heritage 2, and even the Super Ocean Heritage. The difference between the Super Ocean Heritage and the Super Ocean Heritage 2 is that the Heritage 2 has a ceramic bezel, but a lot of collectors like the previous reference, which is the Super Ocean Heritage, because it has an aluminum bezel. Again, matter of personal preference. I like the ceramic, but if you want something that may develop better patina over time, you'll probably want to go after the aluminum. But again, matter of personal preference. Everybody has their own opinions when it comes to bezel material. But I think the Super Ocean Heritage 2 is a fantastic wristwatch to consider for sure. If you want something you can wear anywhere, and it's highly water resistant, and it's and they've got a chronograph. Dudes, Kyle C, welcome aboard, sir. Good to have you. Welcome back. Always good to have you. Welcome to the live show from the studio. So, Cal C, let's hop in here. I'm going to flip back over to face on video here. So, Cal C, you're the one that was talking about the Pistachio Breitling, and I think that's a phenomenal. You got the in-house Breitling movement. It's just a very, what should be, in my opinion, a timeless dial, something that people pick up. It's probably something that's never going to go out of style. And I like the green. It's not a very dark green. It's a unique green color. But yeah, and by the way, anybody, that's for Cal C or anybody else, if you want to tune in live here, I got a link. Actually, I posted it a little bit ago. But let me pop that up here, and I'll share that with everyone here. If you want to tune in live and be face on video, again, not required, but be cool if you wanted to. Let's see. So the link to the live show I posted here. Yeah, there it is. So that's the link. If you got Skype, you want to tune in, you don't have to do face on video. You can just do the, only. I mean, that's completely acceptable. But yeah, just talk wristwatches. I mean, we're not here to, there's a lot of live shows that I also like, but we're not here to talk about the other stuff. We're just here to talk about wristwatches. What's cool, what's what do you think's a bargain? What do you think's a future classic? Cal C says not a bad alternative to the Bond Seamaster. The only thing that's really irritated me with the current reference Seamaster, the Omega Seamaster, the only thing that's really irritated me is that it's in titanium. And I know a lot of people like titanium. And, again, every wristwatch enthusiast is different. Some people may like titanium. I personally don't. And the reasons I don't like titanium, number one, I feel it's too lightweight. And in my mind, when I'm dealing with the wristwatch, whether it's a larger wristwatch or a smaller, 39 millimeter wristwatch or whatever, if it doesn't have a little bit of weight to it, in my mind, I subconsciously perceive the piece as being inferior. It just feels cheap. It doesn't feel like something that, I associate heft, weight of a wristwatch on my wrist. I associate that with being a quality wristwatch. When I'm dealing with titanium, it's so lightweight. And in a prime example of that, not just the current reference Omega Seamaster, but the Tudor Pelagos. I think the Tudor Pelagos is a very awesome piece. If it was available in stainless steel, I would be all over it. I mean, it's got a matte ceramic bezel. It's got a very tool type look to it. It's got, luminescence. It's even got luminescence in the bezel. I mean, how cool is that? It's a very unique piece. And it's got a bracelet on it that, you can set to automatically flex. You drink a lot of beers, you drink a lot of rum, you kind of plump up. That wristwatch will flex. So it's a very, what would be the word for it? A very unique clasp on it. Now, I think, in the Pelagos, I think they could do a little bit of, let's pop up the Pelagos here. Let's show everyone what I'm talking about with the Pelagos here. Let's see. Let's go to Pelagos or Pelagos, however you pronounce it. Let's fire up. Again, we're back at Chrono 24. And I do want to mention I did get permission from Chrono 24 to include their website in my live streams, and I deeply appreciate that. So what I'm browsing right now is chrono24.com. If you go over to chrono24.com, you can see what I'm seeing. And it's just a great site. I've been using Chrono 24 for many years. But Tudor Pelagos, or Pelagos, however you pronounce it, this is a very interesting piece. Now, there's a blue color, which I like, but I think where it is with Pelagos or Pelagos, however you want to pronounce it, I think the black. I think it looks great. This particular piece, like I said, this right here has lume. There's lume in the bezel, which is kind of cool. I mean, to look at this piece, it's got Tool Watch written all over it. I mean, it's just a very simple design. It's got crown guards. If you bang the crown, it may hit the crown guard. It may better protect the crown from becoming dislodged and introducing water into the timepiece. This particular, this Pelagos has a 500 meter, 1,640 foot water resistance rating. Now that is incredible. If you're down that deep, you got problems, man. You got more to worry about than your wristwatch. Look at these markers, and the lume on this is incredible. I got to experience one in the Providenciales airport. That's in Turks and Caicos. I put one of these on my wrist. Actually, I tried the blue one on. But, yeah, it looks great. Now, the disappointment for me, and again, everybody has their own opinions, the disappointment for me, although this looks great, is that it's in titanium. You know, why couldn't Tudor release a stainless steel version of this? I mean, their Black Bays are stainless steel. Why can't they release the Pelagos in stainless steel? And then also, you know, I like the look of this. The thing I don't like, I like the way that the clasp on the Tudor Pelagos functions, but I don't like the way it looks. I think that kind of looks cheap. I hate to say it. I mean, you know, and again, everybody's got, you know, you got your own opinion, but I think if they did away with this gap here and they took this little graphic off and just had it look like a standard clasp, but where, you know, you knew that you could adjust it. Do you want it to flex by itself, or do you want to specify, you know, the micro adjustment? I think that would have been better executed. I think that cheapens it up. Some people will argue differently. They'll say, oh, you know, actually that's a positive because, you know, that's something that it's innovative. You know, it's something you don't see on other wristwatches, and you definitely don't. Tudor Pelagos or Pelagos, however you want to pronounce it, it has its own identity, and this is something you could wear anywhere. My only gripe, again, I wish it was in, and see it's got the helium release valve on the side. My only gripe is that why can't they do it in stainless steel for people that only wear stainless steel timepieces? And, you know, maybe I need to learn to appreciate titanium. You know, maybe the lightweight is something you wear and you forget it's on your wrist and you don't want to wear stainless steel after that. I don't know. But I like the weight. And see, here's the blue reference. Now, they've also got Tudor Pelagos, or Pelagos, however you want to say it. They've also got a LHD, which is left-hand drive. Now, the LHD version is super cool, and I'm going to show you why. Now, would I wear, being a right-handed person, would I wear a left-hand drive timepiece with the crown facing away from your wrist, facing away from your hand? I don't know. It would seem kind of weird. But what's cool about the Tudor Pelagos LHD, the left-hand drive, see right here? Pelagos is in red. And if you're not familiar with Rolex, anytime they put red on the dial, it's a positive. I know it sounds silly, but there's something about red on the dial and a Rolex. This is not Rolex. This is Tudor, but it's Rolex's sister brand. It adds a little bit of extra excitement in the eyes of collectors. So, you know, just something to be aware of there. But yeah, I think it looks great. Again, it's in titanium. That's my only gripe. Kyle C says, I used to wear giant 44 millimeter and 46 millimeter watches. The older I get, the less I actually like it. 40 millimeter is about beat for me anyway. About best, I think he meant about best for me anyway. I like to be thin, but with a bit of weight. Manual wine usually achieves this. Yeah, no, I'm with you on that. I think 40 mil, and I've got a 7.5 inch wrist. I think 40 mil is about perfect. You know, my perfect size is between 39 and 42 millimeter. When I go larger than that, it's more of a, it's a timepiece that looks large. I mean, I like the Panerai, and I didn't go with the super large. I went with the PAM 112, which is 44 millimeters. That's a large wristwatch. Now, the only thing I have larger than the PAM 112 is a Breitling Super Avenger. But again, I got the Super Avenger back in 2009 when big was the thing. And I don't know, it was a separate live show, but something I mentioned. Oh, and by the way, I'm wearing the 114060 today. That's what's on the wristwatch check. But one of the things that happened as the product of picking up the so the first Rolex Smurf is, but yeah, I love the Submariner Smurf. That's a fantastic piece. And you know what? The Smurf is awesome, but I would be completely satisfied with a bluesy, a two-tone bluesy. I like that as well. And then also a a GMT root beer. I like that. But it's it's the thing that the Super Avenger, the Breitling, did to me is that because when I started wearing it in 2009, prior to that, the only proper timepiece I had was an Omega Seamaster 300M Blue Wave dial. Great piece, but old style bracelet, doesn't taper. It's a classic. It'll always be iconic, but it's something you wear and it's just kind of like, man, I want something different. And when I transitioned from the Seamaster, which is Wear Anywhere super high water resistance, to the Super Avenger, I quickly discovered the problem that even though the Super Avenger was rated for a significant, underwater rating, because it didn't have screw down pushers on the, on the chronograph complication, that water could be introduced to the movement even if you were careful. So fortunately, it was under international warranty. It was covered by international warranty, and I went swimming with it. It was rated to, I'd had to pull it out and look at it. I don't have it here with me. It was either 200 or 300 meters. And the fact that I only had my arm, about 3 feet under the water, with the other hand drinking a beer in a lake, it should not have leaked. And I did not push the chronograph pushers, so it shouldn't have leaked. Breitling international warranty repaired it free of charge, no issue. But I will never swim with that piece again. But what the Super Avenger did is, in my mind, it made me think that all of these other watches felt like toys, because when you wear something that large, I mean, it was 47 millimeters. When you wear something that large, you get used to it. And then if you try on even a common size 40 millimeter, it's like, man, that feels small, and you don't like it. So as a product of picking up the Brent, I'm going to get to your question here in just a second. That's a great question. So yeah, so once you get used to the larger size, there was a period, and this was a few years before I added any additional wristwatches, and everything I would try on, I was like, man, that's too small, that's too small. So I was kind of in a weird state, and I was passing up things. Man, I wish that hadn't happened. I wish I had picked up, actually, I'm glad I didn't pick up a Rolex when I picked up the Breitling Super Avenger in 2009, because if I had, I would have picked up an Explorer 2, but it wouldn't have been one of the current references with the good bracelet. It would have been the jingly jangly bracelet. So, but yeah, what it did, it made me pass up a lot of good wristwatches, because in my mind, I would try them on and they were smaller, and I was used to the large thing on my wrist. Now it's the exact opposite. I wear a 40 millimeter or a 39 millimeter or a 42. My Ulysses Nardin is a 42.7, and it's hard for me to go to that 47 again. I still wear my Breitling Super Avenger, but it's very rare that I do it. Brent says, what do you think of the new Black Bay chronos? This is honestly what I think. And I almost pulled the trigger on either the Panda or the reverse Panda. The problem with the current reference Tudor chronos, the Tudor Black Bay chronos, they look great. The Panda or the reverse Panda, I like those. I'm not a fan of the other configurations. The problem is the case height. If you try one of those on, and again, it may not be a problem for everybody, but if you're like me, you disliked the original Black Bay. Not talking about the chrono, but just the red or the blue or the black. You dislike those, or actually it was just red and blue, I think. You dislike those because they had significant case height. If you're used to wearing a Submariner, the case height is, it's substantial, but it's not excessive. So the original Tudor Black Bays, they had a significant case height. The Tudor chronos, even the current reference, it look good in photos. The Panda and the reverse Panda, if you put them on your wrist, they have significant case height. That may not be a problem for everyone, but it just feels weird. It's like you just got something kind of sticking up too tall. And I'm saying that, being someone that primarily wears most of the time I wear the Submariner 114060. I might wear an OP, Worcester Perpetual 39. I might wear a Jaeger LeCoultre 40 millimeter, which is very thin. And I might wear the Ulysses Nardin Maxi Marine Diver, which is 42.7 millimeters, but the case height, even though more than Submariner, is still not that significant. Or the Super Ocean Heritage 2 Breitling, which now it does have significant case height. I think what Tudor needs to do, if they release, here's two things that Tudor needs to do. And I know their Black Bay 58, in my opinion, that's perfect. It's a perfect case height. It's a perfect, 39 millimeters on the wrist is exceptional. But I think what Tudor needs to do, and I think they're cautiously steering away from this, and part of the reason is they don't want to, there's a perception that they want to maintain that disconnect with their parent brand, which is the Crown, which is Rolex. So they don't want everything. But if Tudor really wanted to open up and just open the floodgates and sell a ton of pieces, what they would do is Tudor would release Chrono in a Black Bay 58 configuration. If you could imagine the Chrono with a Panda or a reverse Panda and 39 mil and acceptable case height, that thing would sell like wildfire. The same is the case, in my opinion, for the Tudor GMT. The Tudor Pepsi looks great. A lot of people call it the Diet Pepsi. It looks great. But, again, the Tudor Pepsi is plagued by the case height that is just too much in the eyes of most people. And I think the perception of the case height being too tall is because a lot of people that are looking at these Tudors, because the design language and all of that is so similar to the Rolex, that in their minds they're comparing it to, the Tudor GMT, the Tudor Diet Pepsi. They're comparing it in their mind to a Rolex Pepsi, a GMT Master 2. And when you compare the two, it's the case height. I mean, it's like, man, that's nuts. It's so much taller. If it wasn't for that, I think everything would be fine. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with the current reference Tudor Chronos. I like the Panda and the reverse Panda. I think they look great. Now, a lot of people have commented about, obviously they use the snowflake hands, and a lot of people have commented about how it's not optimal to view the time and everything, or I think it obscures a date window or something like that. So there's a lot of gripes there. And as we know, is Tudor, and I love Tudor. I've got a Tudor Black Bay 58. That's my only Tudor. I got it in the blue. I like it because it doesn't have the faux patina, the fake patina. It's just a just a standard just no date 39 millimeter basic timepiece. I love it. But Cal C says GMT root beer is up there for me. Yeah, definitely. And that's one of those pieces. Looks great. Doesn't look that great in photos, but in person it looks awesome. Polsky says, I don't know why you would get a Tudor over a Rolex, I guess. Definitely not. If you've got a choice between Tudor or Rolex, if the possibility of future resale and or rather future trade is taken into consideration, someone will be a fool, at least currently, to go with a Tudor over a Rolex. With that being said, if you don't have any intentions of selling or trading, when you're dealing with the Black Bay 58, you get a great timepiece. You don't get, at least currently, you don't get the micro adjustment. Now they've got a boutique only Tudor Black Bay 58 that has a glide lock style clasp, but it's not mainstream. But if Black Bay 58 would introduce if they would introduce a ceramic bezel, if they would introduce a bracelet without the fake rivets, the faux rivets, then I think they could be right up there and be just as good as a Submariner. Now, and again, I'm not talking, when I say just as good as a Submariner, I'm not talking about future trade or resale value. I'm just from quality on the wrist, something that's reliable. You can wear it in a pool. You can wear it in an ocean, a hot tub, or whatever. But if I was offered, and it would never happen at the same price, but if I was offered, okay, do you want to buy a Rolex or do you want to buy a Tudor at the same price, assuming that the references were both desirable, I would definitely go with the Rolex, just because the finishing is better. With the naked eye, you're not going to really notice it, but if you zoom in with a camera or a microscope or something like that, you're going to see the hands aren't as finished, as well finished. The case finishing is not as good. It's good. It's excellent quality. But when you compare it side by side with the Rolex, there's just and I know they do that intentionally because they don't want the Tudor to outshine the Rolex. And I mean, that makes sense. The Rolex is the crown. The Tudor's kind of I've got desire to become something great, but I'm not quite there yet, but I still want something nice on the wrist. I mean, that's kind of their perception. And that's what Hans Willdorf wanted to create, and he did it. Now, his company released a lot of garbage prior to the Black Bay, but now they're on, the Black Bay is positioned to replace the entry-level Rolex lineup, in my opinion, because soon there will not be an entry-level price point for Rolex. I mean, there just won't be. I mean, that's just how things work. Cal, he says, rum on the go tonight, Irix. Well, actually, I just got some scotch. I just got a blend. I didn't go with single malt, just a good blended Johnny Walker. So I just got that with a little bit of water in it and some cubes. The cubes melted. I like Johnny Walker because it's got a good smokiness to it. It's good thing. I got some steaks. I got to grill a steak for my wife. I got to grill a steak for myself, but not going to do that yet because I was doing this live stream, and then I'm going to do those steaks. But it's fascinating. This whether you're interested in timepieces as someone that just enjoys wearing a different timepiece, whether you're interested in it as wanting to invest. And again, a lot of people, and again, this is not investment advice, this is just for entertainment purposes only, but a lot of people collect some of the core reference Rolexes, they collect some of the core reference Pateks, and they collect some of the core reference other brands. One that comes to mind is Omega Moonwatch, the man on the moon. I mean, if you look at a chart, you go to chrono24.com and look at a chart for some of these core reference pieces from some of the top tier brands, you'll see a trend. And the trend is often up, 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 up. Now, can that change? Yes, it can. But, a lot of people look at this as an investment. I wear wristwatches because I like them and I like variety. And every wristwatch that I wear is different. And, different complications. I mean, I've got some that are manual wind. I've got some that have a date. I've got some that have a power reserve, some that have no date, some that are highly water resistant, some that aren't, some that have exhibition case backs, some that don't. Polsky says, best to get something that goes up in value. Well, it's always good, whether it's, a wristwatch or whatever, if you can get in on something that, if there's an SHTF scenario, you could probably exit. Now, it's obviously probably going to be easier to exit something that's desirable. I mean, if someone was super concerned and, they wanted a top tier wristwatch on their wrist, you can't go wrong with a Submariner. I mean, Submariner is probably always going to be iconic. Submariner is probably always going to be the number one wristwatch. And the reason is there's a few factors. Number one, it's a Rolex, and a lot of people that don't even know wristwatches, they think, oh, well, Rolex, that's the best. The reality is Rolex isn't the best. There's a lot of manufacturers out there that really outshine Rolex, but the perception is that it is the best, and the perception also is that Submariner is probably the best because, associated with James Bond and a lot of other things, and it's got, it's just got a history associated with it. And it's highly water resistant, highly durable, something you can wear pretty much anywhere. So for that reason, and it's highly recognizable. So for that reason, that's a piece that probably, unless Rolex flooded the market with Submariners, or if they cheapened up their brand image and started selling them in discount stores and this, that, and the other, it could change. But the way that they have the authorized dealer network now, unless they change that, it's probably going to be a situation where the demand will probably continue, where the price will probably continue to rise because, brands like Rolex, they do annual price increases. Sometimes they don't do it every year, but they do it most years. Sometimes they do it, for only a few of their references. Sometimes they do it across the board. Sometimes some references have, X percentage price increase. Sometimes the others have a greater price increase. It's stuff that helps with the long-term value. And again, I'm not a flipper or an investor, and the reason I say that is that I have relationships with multiple authorized dealers in the Caribbean, and I don't, I wouldn't want to abuse the power and get blacklisted. If there's something I want, I can get it. I can get a good deal on it, but it's not something I'm going to be getting and flipping, because there's a lot of people that go out, if they get lucky and they walk into an authorized dealer and something's not spoken for by a VIP client, they could potentially pick it up. They could potentially flip it for 60, 70% increase on the gray market. So see, that's what's hampering the the supply of Rolex in the authorized dealers, is that people realize that, and a lot of people are looking at this. People that may have zero interest in wearing a wristwatch or collecting wristwatches, but they just look at it as a potential investment opportunity only, and that's creating challenges for the average Joe or the average Jane, like myself or potentially you, that just want, you saved up, you've done your whatever business you're involved with, you've made the money, you want something nice, and you've got options, but your options are limited because a lot of those more popular references, such as a Daytona, good luck finding that in an authorized dealer. It's crazy. Polsky says, why buy stocks when you can buy Rolex? And that's the mentality that a lot of people have. It's a from a manufacturing cost perspective, the labor and the materials, that's not that significant. Rolex the markup is created by demand. People assume it's the best of the best, and they're great wristwatches. Don't get me wrong, but it's been pumped up so hard that people are just clamoring to get most any reference of Rolex, and that's it could crash. If something from a business perspective went south and they cheapened up the brand image, in essence, someone sitting on, in this case, this is just a Submariner. It's stainless steel. It's got a ceramic bezel. It's got some white gold on the dial. But if you really break it down to what it is, it's really not that worth that much. But if you put all of this marketing jazz in there, and things that have created the perceived value, it becomes worth hundreds of percent more potentially than the actual materials and time and labor put into it. So, this is an interesting it's an interesting arena, because it's not, like silver or like gold. It's not a precious metal. It's just cheap metals that have been assembled professionally to a high level of precision by watchmakers that, ensure that this timepiece is highly accurate for a mechanical timepiece. And but when you go past that, the dollar value is really not that much. So unlike a precious metal, and again, none of this is investment advice. This is just for entertainment purposes only. It should not be considered a recommendation to buy or sell a security or a wristwatch for that matter. Polsky says, why don't you like gray market dealers? And I don't dislike gray market dealers. And I'd like to go as far as to say if there's a gray market dealer that would be interested in reaching out to me and advertising on my live streams, I would love that. And I would love to be able to feature their website in my Timepieces for Tomorrow live streams. I don't have anything against authorized dealers. I mean, against gray market dealers, rather. I personally choose authorized dealers for a couple reasons. Number one, I've got relationships with several of them in the Caribbean. And when I go down there, it's, they've got such good variety. The people are great. I can get a really good deal on whatever I'm looking for at that point in time. When I do that, I know that I'm doing business with an authorized dealer, meaning that, if I do purchase a timepiece, I'm getting the box, I'm getting the papers, it's 100% genuine. There's no counterfeit concerns. I mean, it's 100% authentic timepiece. So I don't have any doubts when I'm doing that. With the gray market, even with the top tier gray market dealers that have been doing it for a long time, that may have even employed, former associates from some of those top wristwatch brands that know how to spot a fake. There's often components. I mean, if it's, so let's say the wristwatch itself is correct, and let's say the movement's correct, but let's say there's a screw and or other components that were swapped out aftermarket. Only your seasoned wristwatch dealer, watchmaker, will be able to go in and spot that. So number one, if they go in and spot it, that means they're disassembling the timepiece, which that adds a little bit of concern in my mind, because now I'm dealing with something that, what was the experience level of that watchmaker that disassembled this before I bought it gray market? Were they having a bad day? Did they really know what they were doing? Did they scratch the piece? Did they scratch something internal that only would be observed if the timepiece was taken apart? Also, purchasing from a gray market, there's probably not any sort of warranty attached. So if you need to service it, you're probably going to have to go through a third party. Now, is that third party going to provide genuine parts? I mean, who knows? Are you even getting 100% genuine parts when you purchase that from the gray market? It's not a certainty. The only way to be 100% certain is to purchase from an authorized dealer. So it's kind of, I don't know. I mean, it's paranoia, I guess you would say. But it's one of those things, if you ever did trade or you ever did sell, it's the discovery at that point of, oh, you got aftermarket screws, or, oh, your hairspring is not factory. Things that could really destroy the value of that piece. Even if the dial, the hands, the case, everything externally visible was 100% genuine. If the internals were modified, I mean, it's freaky. Polsky says, you can melt down your gold Rolexes to use for a commodity. That's the thing. I don't have any gold Rolexes. But yeah, people definitely can. They can, when you're dealing, especially with a current reference, solid end-link precious metals pieces, I mean, that is something that, you've always got melt value. So, it's, and the other thing, when we're talking about authorized, gray market dealers, the other thing that kind of irritates me is, I mean, the prices, and this isn't the case for all brands, but at least it is for Rolex. The prices are so high. They're so high. They're so way above, MSRP. I mean, if for most of these pieces, if you went in an authorized dealer and you were lucky and found one, it would be significantly less than the gray market. I don't buy gray market because I'm never going to spend above retail. And even when every purchase I've made an authorized dealer, I have negotiated like a madman, and I've gotten an extreme discount, meaning that any piece that I bought in an authorized dealer, even at the time of leaving that dealer, if I wanted to sell immediately, I could potentially sell for a few $100s loss. Now, realistically, I don't care to sell anything. That's not my intent. I'm not a flipper. But if I was, after a few months or after a year or so, I could get it for a small profit. That's just how I do it. But, you know, that's with full set, box and papers. You know, that's my thing. But again, I'm not opposed to gray market. And if there's any gray market dealers watching this, if you want to shoot me a message and partner up with me and let me feature your website and, you know, work something out, I'd love to chat with you about that. I definitely would. By the way, down below this this live stream, you can find all my merch. I've got timepieces for tomorrow merchandise, and I've got one coming in. I've got a sweatshirt, a hooded sweatshirt that's coming in with timepieces for tomorrow logo. I got stickers, I got coffee mugs, and, you know, of course, all of that. If you choose to pick up, it helps to support the channel